Okay, hello everyone. I hope all of you are doing well. Today I want to talk about a topic that has been being faced a lot by us this year. It's mostly mentioned in many courses such as radiology, endo, and it will be more mentioned even in pathology, which is the cyst in here. So first of all, we have to understand the components of the thing in order to be able to understand it properly. Okay? So what do we have in the cyst? Actually, in the cyst, we have three main components, which is the lumen, the epithelial lining, and the capsule. Okay? So first of all, let's just try to think wider. Let's try to get out of the dental context of it, and just think of the lumen or the cyst, I'm sorry, of the cyst as a hamburger like this, formed of an inner layer, a middle layer, and an outer layer. Okay, basically the cyst is exactly like the hamburger shown in there, and that's by being formed of same three layers from the same sequence going from inner up to the outer layer. And these three layers are the lumen, which is in here, the epithelial lining, which is in the middle, and the capsule, which is the outer part of the cyst. So let's go back to dentistry and try to have a look on them on here. Basically, that's the inner part, which is the lumen, as you can see, is a really big one, and the middle part, which is the epithelial lining in here, and the outer part, which is the capsule. So basically, the cyst and the burger are having the same context. Okay, now let's speak about each one individually. So the cystic lumen, or the inner layer, or the lowest part of the burger, is actually a big part when it comes to the cyst. As you can see, it's like a big circle in here, and usually the circle is the one filled with a fluid. Most of the time, it gives the whole cyst its consistency, even. It's formed of a fluid, usually a straw-colored one. It's yellowish most of the time, and it contains some components as crystals, dead cells, and protein. And these cholesterol crystals, by the way, is what makes it shiny, what makes the cyst actually shiny. The osmotic pressure draws fluid in and the cyst after that enlarge. What does that mean? We have to understand the concept of the cyst and what makes it enlarged with time. So basically, the cyst in here is being formed this way. It's an inflammation going on, and it keeps on getting bigger with time. Then it gets away from the blood support, and this inflammation or these cells started to be ischemic. You don't have enough blood support, and so on. They try to compensate that by increasing the penetration in order to get fluids in to compensate the missing blood. And these fluids are not necessarily to be a blood. It can be a lot of other components. It can be dead cells. It can be proteins, as shown in here, albumin, globulin, and nucleoproteins, and also way more other types. Okay, so basically, these proteins are coming from the blood that the cyst was trying to get in, and not basically formed by the cyst itself. Okay. Okay, let's go to the other part, which is the epithelial lining, or the burger, as who was shown before in our example. So as you can see, it does look like a burger. It's in the middle, trapped in between a lumen and a cyst wall. So it's actually in the middle. We can say it separates the lumen from the cystic wall outside. Okay, the type of epithelial lining, because there are many types of epithelium, is in cyst, or in this kind of cyst, non-keratin. So the type in here of this epithelial lining is the non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. So where does it come from? Where does the whole epithelial lining thing come from? It's from epithelial rest of Malassez. And if we think of it, all of us, after our jaws being formed, after our teeth being formed, we have some epithelial rest of Malassez, some remnants of these forming cells in our mouth. But why not all of us are having cyst in this case? Basically, epithelial rest of Malassez needs a stimulation, usually happening out of an inflammation. And to be more specific, is from cytokines as an inflammatory response. So these epithelial rest of Malassez can turn into a cyst. Okay. We can see something called an arcadian pattern in there, which means that these epithelial lining can be sometimes getting into this lumen, this golden arcadian pattern, and it's also infiltrated by inflammatory cells, neutrophils, and lymphocytes, because the body is still in an ongoing war with this cyst in the body, with this foreign body in there. Sometimes, in some rare occasions, this non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium can cause a metaplasia, can change in its shape or its form, and this usually happens in the maxillary cyst case. If it's very close to the maxillary cyst, this epithelial lining can change to another epithelial lining. It can metaplase or change its form to something called respiratory type ciliated epithelium. And if it's even closer, it can resemble another type of cyst, which is I find it really interesting, called a postoperative maxillary cyst. So the closure of the cyst to the region of the body determines how it would actually look like. For sure, there's no any kind of dysplasia or malignancy because it's a cyst. It's not yet a tumor. So let's go to the last part of the cyst, which is the cyst wall or the capsule, as is apparent here. It's the outer lining of the capsule. Okay, it's formed of a fibrous connective tissue and is highly vascular because the inflammation has been going on here for a long period of time, and this is the most crucial area, by the way, in the cyst. And it does have a lot of inflammatory cells, such as plasma, lymphocytes, and macrophages. And according to or due to these plasma cells, they might be some antibodies or overproduction of antibodies resulting to something called Russell bodies that can be still found in this outer layer as a result of a lot of plasma cells being in there. This an ongoing war has some effects too, such as cholesterol classification, foreign body giant cells, as a result to an ongoing war happening between the cyst and the body. The most important thing and the most crucial thing about the cyst wall or this capsule is that the body is trying to find the cyst. It finds it as a threaten the kind of closure of bone the cyst has is a threat to the body. So in order to that, the body is trying to attack this bone around the cyst and break it down. So cytokines send some uh, inflammatory elements such as IL-1, IL-6, and TNF-A to break this bone around the cyst. And that's the main problem, and that's the main issue of any cyst around the body, because after that, this breakage of the bone can cause breakage to, or can cause some resorption to the adjacent teeth even. So these inflammatory response activate osteoclast, bone resorption happen, and for sure prior to that, the bone is very weak. It looks like an eggshell. It's like the outer crust of the egg. That's it all. I wish this video was helpful. Kareem was there, and thank you for your time.